This conference will now be recorded.
So yes, good morning and thanks for joining. This is regarding ABAP objects, what we usually call it as object-oriented ABAP. So it's not a new concept. In fact, to be honest, it's been there since many years. But now, since SAP is using this one more and more, it became mandatory for us to learn what exactly it is. Internally earlier, SAP tried to hide the object-oriented code. So when I say when SAP try to hide the object-oriented code, they kept everything object-oriented inside, but try to give an impression that this is non-object-oriented. So I repeat, SAP started using the object-oriented since long back, but they try to give an impression saying that ABAP is still non-object-oriented, but it's great because great things can be done only through object-oriented. Because object-oriented is, technically speaking, it's a language with collection of good principles. It's a language with collection of good principles like security and reusability. The any object-oriented language will talk about only 2 points: security of your code or data and reusability of your code. So these are the only 2 points. And internally it is classified like this and this. I'll come to that. But coming to my first point, what is my first point? SAP started using the object oriented many years ago, but tried to give an impression that this is non-object oriented. The best example here is, I think you're all from ABAP background. Yes, a function module, ALV function module here. So reuse ALV underscore grid underscore display. Now, how many of you people know that this is not object, this is object oriented? We all know that this is a function module, and that means non-object oriented. No, 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 no. When you display it, see this? When you display this function module, when is the attributes, this function module is written so and so, and the first written in so and so here, etc. These are just attributes. Now I want you to read this code, guys. Source code. Get into source code. See this, the first statement, other than declarations, these are all just commented lines. Other than the declarations, the first statement is a class, which is an object oriented component. The next statement is a call method. The next statement is call method. Then who said it is? Who said it is non-object oriented? Yes, see this, call methods, call methods, call methods. So SAP started using the object oriented since long back, but they try to give an impression that it is not object oriented. So now when you try to debug this kind of function models, we are in trouble because it's calling a method, creating a class, etc., etc., etc. So even though you're working with a non-object oriented kind of thing like function models, when you're getting inside the function model, since classes and methods are getting called, so it become mandatory for us to know what is class and methods, even though you are not using an object oriented component directly. So even though you have 10 years of experience, you may not notice this. We feel that function model is a function model, it's a non-object oriented, call the function model no object oriented. Sorry, internally everything is a function model. Now it's time for SAP to release the secret. Sorry guys, and we are using object oriented, then it became two-step approach. It became two-step approach. Two-step approach means your program is calling a function module. The function module is calling an object of a method or a method of an object. Again, this method returns something back to the function module to program. So what happens? This function module acts as a mediator, which will degrade the performance, in fact. So now what SAP is saying? Sorry guys, no, directly program to object oriented to program. So no broker. So instead of calling the function modules, you are going to call the methods and classes. This is a simple example And why an object-oriented is required? Because it is part of ABAP since many years. It become mandatory for us to understand, especially even though you are not calling, even while debugging these kind of things, it will take to one class method, etc., etc., etc. So is this point clear? Why we need to learn object oriented? At least even though you are not working, at least when you debug it, that time it will take to classes and methods. This is my first reason. Second reason is SAP itself says that no function model ALV, object oriented ALV, object oriented ALV. So what is there in object oriented ALV? Instead of calling a function module, we are going to call a method. Now I'll show you one more interesting point here. One more interesting. I think most of you people familiar with object oriented ALV, at least the class name that is used, the approach that is used. So here, so what is the approach we follow in the object oriented ALV? Now let me know the class name used in the object oriented ALV. Any idea? Any idea what is the class name used in the object oriented ALV?
CL underscore SLV underscore.
GI ALV grid, right? Yes. And before this, a container, CLGI custom container. Yes, I directly went into technical just to for you to understand the importance of object oriented instead of discussing what is object oriented, what is inheritance, what is polymorph. I'll come to that. I'll come to that. Container. Then in this a method, set a table for first display. Of course, understand. Underline in between. Set table for first display. First display. And as part of this, we need to create a screen. As part of this, we have to have a screen and then a custom control or container, and then create an object for this one, for this class, then use this container as a parent for this ALV, this container as a parent for the ALV, create ALV object, then finally on the ALV call this method. More or less the same step. So if you are familiar with this, it's fine, but if not, just observe it. As a first step, create a screen and container. As a second step, create an object for the container. As a third step, use the container object as a parent for the ALV. Then finally call this method from the ALU object. This is what we typically do in the object oriented. Now get ready for the magic. Get ready for the magic. Now I'm going to open this function module. Say display. Yes. Now classes and methods. Finally, there is a screen. They're calling the screen that I'm talking about. It's a function module calling the screen. Go and see the layout of the screen. Layout. Yeah, go to the layout. That this is S4HANA system. The options might be a bit different. Don't worry. Yeah, this is the layout. And in the PBO, surprisingly, we can see the same code. Whatever I discussed it. A container object, an ALU object, and a method. Yes, see this? Now here, when you scroll down and see this one, this is what? Is it not your custom control? Double click on it. Yes, it is a custom control. When you work with object-oriented ALV, if you're not familiar, maybe after this session you can Google for how to work with object-oriented ALV. As a first step, a screen, a custom control. This is nothing but a class for us. CLGA custom container. Now go back and see the flow logic in the PBO. Yes, perform. Yes, come down. See this here. They are creating an object. Where is this? So creating an object for container here. Create object container. Container. Again, if you just go back and see the layout, I forgot to collect that name. So back. So yes, go to the layout. I wanted to know the name of it. double click on, I think, grid 1. Yes, it's a grid 1. So this is what we are going to use it while creating the container object. Go to flow logic, double click on it and see. Yes, here, create container object. Sorry, where is this? Yes, create container object. For that name of the container, we are passing my container. Double click on the my container. It is a variable whose value is grid 1. So that what I'm doing, I'm creating an object for the container. Yes. Similarly, create the object for grid. Create the object for grid using your container object as input. This is the container object, that is a parent. Finally, and we can see a method called set table for. These are all methods. See this. Who said this is non-object oriented? I open the screen. PBO module in a function module. Yes. So finally we can see a method at the end. See this, guys. From the grid, set table for first display. It's a method from the LV. So now what I want to observe it. By mistake, if your things are not working, when I try to debug, it will take to class and method and call create object, etc, etc, etc. Now you can imagine your situation when you are not familiar with the object oriented, even though you are working with a non-object oriented. So this is the first point I want everyone to understand. At least to work with the existing thing, at least to understand the things and then debug the things, we have to have the object oriented knowledge, even though you are not using directly the object oriented, even though you are using this function module. So now what happens, it becomes indirect approach. Your program is calling this function module, your function module is calling a screen, and screen is creating an object is calling a method, etc. Now remove this mediator, this broker, no more. Directly in the object oriented, what happens, you create a screen, you create an object, you call the method. So maybe you might feel this is lengthy approach because you are doing all these things, but to and improve the performance because it's a two-step approach. Now it became only one step. So I'm not sure how many people really understood. It's a very interesting thing. You may have 10 years, 15 years of experience, but you may not realize this. You may not notice this point, what I explained just now. What is that I explained? Are we understood? The function module ALV is not a non-object one. It is object oriented. So that is the first reason why every ABAPer need to know object oriented, even though you are not working with object oriented directly. When you are working directly, anyway it's mandatory. So yes, please, is this point clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it is clear.
Very much clear.
Yeah, thank you. Right. So it should be very interesting, really. Yeah. Now come back. Now let us go with the general discussion. This is just to impress you guys, to impress you and to know the importance of object oriented, even in the non-object oriented environment. Almost all SAP function modules and SAP programs, they started taking the help of object oriented since long back. Now SAP is saying that this is what we did. Sorry, you guys can go with object oriented directly, so that there is no mediator at all. That's all. Now, yes, general discussion. What is object oriented, etc, etc, etc. Now before that, I'll show you one program in the non-object oriented, one program in the object oriented. Definitely you don't like the object oriented. I'll tell you why. You definitely don't like object oriented. Yes, we'll see. So SE38, let us say I need to write a program just to print an underline. I need to write an ABAP program to print an underline. So GADM. So I have the habit of starting my program names with ADM, ADIMULAM, part of my surname, and print underline, print U line. I'll say that's all. Print U line. Say create, yeah, non-object oriented, a simple program. Only one line of code. This is what ABAP. Only U line, no standard page heading. When you run it, direct processing, F8, nothing but You got the underline. Now get ready for object oriented. Even though you don't know object oriented as of now, the syntax is and all, don't worry. But understand only one point. Object oriented is nothing but keeping your code inside the classes and methods. Timing as a layman, in keeping your code inside the classes and methods. So now come back. When I want the same thing in object oriented, since ABAP is a hybrid language, when it's a hybrid language, it is a combination of procedural as well as object oriented, because it born as procedural, then adopt the object oriented concepts, because they know the strength of object oriented, then they adopt this concept. So that still it supports non-object oriented as well as object oriented. That means within a method I can call a subroutine, within a subroutine I can have method. Methods can be called inside subroutines, which are non-object oriented, and the subroutines can be called inside the method, and which is the other way. Yes, it is supported, depends on the requirement. Now what I want you to understand, and object oriented ABAP is always not better in the performance wise. In every case it's not better. When it is better, then take the help of the object oriented. That's what my point, because ABAP is not strictly object oriented, guys. ABAP is strictly not object oriented. It is a hybrid language. So when you feel that ABAP object oriented is not so helpful in this particular area, you don't need to go for that, because you always have the option where you can go for non-object oriented also. Now let me show you the same example in the object oriented. Let me write it quickly. Yes, my program is ready, but I wanted to write it for you to understand. Object oriented, print underscore underline, like a demo. Yes, so create. So we have to keep everything in the form of classes and methods. Class is the representation for the objects. It acts as a data type. I'll discuss more of those things later. So now create. Yes. So demo, and the type as an executable, save, and don't go with a local object, go with a package, a transportable package. Yes, for all ADIMULAMs, it's fine. Yes. Now let's say ABAP is strictly object oriented. When ABAP is strictly object oriented, it won't allow you to write uline dot, because as per the object oriented, everything must be inside an object. The technical representation of object is a class. So as of now, so I need to keep everything in a class. Again, class name, I'll say class name, say general. And for definition, we are defining the class and end class. This is a above syntax. In Java it may be open curly braces, close curly braces. In other languages may have their own syntax, but in every language which is object oriented, there should be a concept called class. So class name, definition, then so, and it's a two-step process. Object oriented is always a two-step process. Define the object and implement the object. Just like when you wanted to construct the building, design the building plan first, then implement it. So at the time of designing only, we can understand a lot of things, all the difficulties, etc., etc. So we don't start your construction blindly. That's what happens with the non-object oriented. In the non-object oriented, you start writing your code directly, implementation directly. Whereas in object oriented, we have to define the object. We have to tell that what this object is for. We have to tell that what are the properties of the object. We have to tell that the functionalities of the object. So that and all, technically we speak variables and methods. Variables are nothing but the properties of the object, and methods are nothing but the functions of the object which are going to manipulate it. So now I'll say one method at least. I should have one method to print the underline. Methods is a keyword. I'll give all the syntaxes later in detail if you want. Timing, methods, name of the method. I'll say print underline. This is the name of the method. That's all. It may have importing and exporting parameters, but currently it has no importing, exporting. Over. Then we'll get an error when you check for syntax. Yes, there is no public protected private section. because if you remember here what we said, object oriented deals with only 2 points. What are the 2 points? Security and reusability. Security can be provided with the visibility sections like public and private and protected. So which are not part of non-object oriented. These are not part of non-object oriented. Public means it can be accessed even outside the class also, outside the object. Other objects can access. Private, no, only within the object. Protected, the dependent objects like, anyway we'll see more in detail, but in one line, public means yes, accessible from everywhere, and outside the object at least. Private, not from outside, only inside. Protected, outside it can be accessed but only by the dependent objects, those who have the relationship like parent and child, or superclass and subclass. We'll see those things as an example. Now when you define anything, an object and a class, we cannot leave that empty without any visibility section. The strength of object oriented is to provide the security for that with the help of that. So now I want this one as a public. Let the methods called public section is the keyword in ABAP. In other language it may be just public. So let the methods called by everywhere, by everyone in the outside the program, because there is no damage when they call the method. They can see only the result of it. So data, the variables should not be public ideally. So anyway, I don't need any variables here, just to print and underline. Now save it. Check it. Yes, now it is saying my definition is ready. Now read that message. Does not have a class implementation. Yes, you got the, you give me the skeleton, you give me the body of it, and but where is the code for that implementation? Yes, that should be in a section called class, the name of the class, implementation, and class. Yes, inside that I need to write the code. When you want to implement a subroutine, it should be in a form and end form. When you want to implement a function module, it is inside function and function. A module inside the module and module. Similarly, a method inside the method and method. So your method, let me copy this. This is known as method implementation. Method name, method name, and a dot and method. Yes. However, inside this is what object oriented in ABAP. Now, what is the exact ABAP? The uline dot is the exact ABAP. That's all. When you say now in the previous program, if you remember, we write just uline dot. That is the exact statement in ABAP. Now, the rest of thing is a makeup for this thing, for what, to provide the security, etc., etc. We'll see that anyway. Now, still we cannot run the program and see the result. Yeah, check it. Syntactically correct. Activate it, and when you run it, yes, you can't get the result, because it's just like you write the code in the form and form, but perform is missed. So to get the result, this, what else is pending, guys? You can guess it. What else is pending? Yes, what is pending to see the result?
Create object.
Create object. Next, yeah, once the object is created, then
Call the method.
yes, exactly. So again, I need to create object. Even without creating object also, we can define this method as something called class method. So that is bit early to understand. Now what I'll do, I need to create an object, O_general, type ref2. Of course, in the new statement, in the new ABAP, we have the new keyword also. There is a keyword called new. Anyway, let's go with the traditional first. Type ref2 your class. This is still not an object. It can refer an object of this class. Now let me create it. Start of selection, where your actual executable statement begins. Create object name. Yes, still not enough. Then call method. Yes, which method? Print underline. From where to call it? O_general. Yes. Now as a result of this program. Now save it, check it, activate it. Yeah, I'm sure you're all disappointed by seeing these lines of code to print and underline. Yes, guys, is anyone is happy to see this code to print and underline?
No, no.
No,
No
right?
one, sir.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, so that's what it should be. No, but why we say object 20 is better? No, guys, when you ask whether this program is better or that program is better, definitely here you keep everything in object oriented, but that is useless for my application. That is useless for my application, because when I am printing an underline, I am not worrying about the security, I am not worrying about the reusability. When you are not worrying about the security and reusability, when it is not applicable in your program, so when it is not applicable in your program, definitely, how come? Yeah, dot is missed, it seems. Yes, check it, activate it, and let me go with the no standard page heading. Now check it, activate it, run it. So run. Yes, got it. So what you got, you want underline? So an underline as a result of some 15 to 20 lines of code. Yes, nearly 23 lines of code, or if you remove the spaces and all, okay, at least. So now definitely no one will like, that is reason most of the people don't like object oriented. Because if ABAP is strictly object oriented, if ABAP is strictly object oriented, our life will be like this. Our life starts with defining a class. A program starts with defining a class. So now what I am trying to say, object oriented is great. It has the strength, but in your program, the strength is not applicable. The strength is not applicable. When it is not applicable, when there is no scope to use that reusability concept, no scope to apply that uh, security concept, then definitely we don't feel the importance of object oriented, because the result of this is simply an underline. Then we also have another program to print the underline. We also have another program to print underline. So when you really ask me which program is better, I don't say this is better. It is just approach is object oriented, but you are not taking the strength of, you are not, that object oriented is not helping you. This is just an underline. Whereas other program, where there is only one line of statement, right? So this one, for your convenience, yes, for your convenience, I just ping that code, and may not be required now. Go back. Now tell me then why object oriented is required, when exactly? This is print non-object oriented. Just print underline. This is one program, that is one program. Is it? Did I close it by mistake? Anyway, now let us come back. Now what my intention is, so there we wrote many things, but if you are writing programs like that, definitely we cannot enjoy the object oriented. And to be honest, at the program level, we do that kind of things. When SAP strictly says that you need to apply the object oriented, even though it is useful or not, we simply write the code like that. Now, but object oriented purpose is different. Yes, program level, to be honest, we don't see much difference. Program level, we don't see much difference, either object oriented or non-object oriented. But at what level we can see the difference then? Yes, now you should know the purpose of object oriented first, what exactly it is. Now I'll write one more program where you don't see much difference between a non-object oriented, object oriented. So don't mind, I'll write one more program. Gdemo print customers non-object oriented. Create as printing customer general data and non-object oriented. Yes, at a type, save it. Type executable, right? Yes, executable. Save it. So a package, save it. Yeah. So let me declare some fields from the KNE1 table and then select the data, etc., etc. So I'll say pattern, because I really not interested to see all the fields with the fields from KNE1. Yes, Kunar, land 1, name 1, ORT01 postal code region. Select it and continue. Yes, change it to types, begin off. Otherwise you are not happy, we can time being go with the select star to make it simple. To make it simple, I can say, and I can say data, my work area KNA1, type TY underscore KNA1, because being an experienced developer, we should not go for star. Very rarely we may go for type table of KNA1. Yes, my internal table is ready. Start of selection. Start of selection, my select statement. Select star from KNA1 into table IT underscore KN1, time being up to some 20 rows. Then end of selection, and if IT KN1 is not initial, yes, then loop at IT KN1 into work area KN1. Yes, this is nothing object oriented, but yes, to understand the yes, work area KN1 hyphen Kunar, and one or two fields enough, hyphen name 1 and land 1. KN1 hyphen land 1 over, this is the name 1. Yes, and else a message, no data, no customer, simply type some type I. Yes, and if so, nothing wrong in this program. Check it, activate it. TY KN1 is unknown. Yes, it's now KN1, all fields of KN1. Check it, activate it. Since you are all from ABAP background, I might go a bit faster because you are all familiar with these syntaxes, I think. So I don't need to explain what is a work area, what is internal table, what is select statement, what is loop and unloop. That's what I'm not expecting for me to explain. Yes, a data is displayed. Now this is definitely nothing wrong in that. But in the real time, this is not accepted. We have to apply the modularization techniques. So what we do, we say perform get customers, select this, double click on the perform, move that into form and inform. Say yes. Say yes. Someone's taking time. Okay, let it be. Then let me keep. Anything wrong with the syntax? No, perform. Yeah. Sometimes if it's something wrong with the syntax, also it will take more time. Just save it. Yeah, let it be. Then let's say this code is such a way. Now the code is such a way, start off selection, perform, get customers, and there inside your select statement, and end of selection, perform display customers. End of selection, perform display customers. And that's all. Now this is your non-object oriented but modularized. Yeah. So non-object oriented but modularized. You want to do, okay, this is quite surprising. Yeah, let it be. Now, let us say this I want the same as part of object oriented. When you want the same as part of object oriented, you have two forms, right? And form get customers, and form the select statement, and similarly form and display customers and form. That's all. Here may be a select statement, and here the loop and loop. Now this is definitely a non-object oriented or a procedural, and with modularization improved, applied otherwise. Now if you want this same in object oriented, very simple. Replace these two in methods. Instead of form and form, it's a method and method. Instead of this form and form, it's a method and method. And instead of perform, it is called method. It is called method. The same program can be written in object oriented. In object oriented, again replace the perform with call method. Replace the form and form with method and method. Again, when you ask me what is the advantage of replacing the form and form with method and method, perform with call method, there is no advantage in that particular program level except just in object oriented way. But where we can see the real advantages, you got it, know what I'm saying? If you are writing the same program with the classes and methods, it's a matter of replacing this performs with call methods, the form and form with method and methods. So when you ask me, so what is the advantage of this object oriented program over this non-object oriented program, definitely I'll say there is no advantage except the approach is object oriented. Then where exactly we can see the strength of object oriented, the benefit of object oriented. So the benefit of object oriented, to be honest, you cannot see in a single program. When you are writing the code, especially when you are using that, when you are implementing the functionality, we don't see the strength of object oriented. At the time of designing the solution, we can see the strength of object oriented. I want everyone to understand the difference between the design and implementation. Designing the building means giving the plan for the building. There we can see the strength of the engineer. The engineer should be skillful. That engineer is the object oriented. Once that plan is done and given properly, and where at that time only you identify all these things, once your diagram is ready, your building plan document is ready, then you can go to your village. Maybe you can get a mestri, and then with the help of some manpower, you can get that building constructed. Maybe now and then the engineer might visit your site. Now there are two activities in that. Up to designing the plan of the building is known as design. Once that is ready, start constructing your things as per that guidelines given in the plan is nothing but implementation. So while implementing, you don't see the real strength of object, I mean that plan. But the time of designing only, we need more and more skills. They have to apply a lot of technique. They need to identify the difficulties in constructing the building. Once the plan is ready, if the plan says yes, 90% of the time says the construction will be ready, the construction can be completed even with normal people. But the planning cannot be completed with normal people, no? Can we complete the planning with normal people? So I want you to understand the difference between designing the building and constructing the building. So at the time of designing the building, now you tell me what and all things comes into picture. At the time of designing the building, yes, and how many floors you want it. You said simply the customer says, I need 20 floors. Now the engineer simply cannot give you the plan for 20 floors. He had to check it whether 20 floors can be built in that particular area. What is the impact of other buildings? So, and what are all the issues with other buildings when it is 20 floors? Whether we can get the permission or not. Yes, let us say he got all the information. Yes, 20 floors can be built. Fine. Again, how much space for building? How much space for remaining activities? Then what next? So the first floor, you said in the first floor, I need helipad. Question mark. Customer says, sir, I need a helipad in the first floor. Engineer cannot give a plan ready. He will check it. Is it possible or not to offer a helipad in the first floor? What is the impact of that floor with other floors? And you said in the third floor I need a swimming pool. Yes, he cannot simply say yes. He will check it. If the third pool is a swimming pool, what about, is there any damage to the floors below? And you said, and in the fourth floor I need a football court, and again in the round shape. Yes, again he check it. Fifth floor, I need one floor in the triangle shape. Yes. So this is all your requirement. For this requirement, so a lot of time has to be spent, analyze it, and this is called one object. The building is called one object. This is one functionality, this one functionality, this one functionality, and you want everyone to enjoy the swimming pool. You want to make it public, so there should be a way. There should be a way to the swimming pool directly instead of coming from this. So you don't want to allow others to access this helipad. So this is what your requirement. So that means before you start constructing your building, so a lot of groundwork will take place. That groundwork only is done by some engineers. Here the engineer is our object orientation, which is with collection of some good principles like encapsulation, abstraction, and polymorphism, inheritance. We'll see that one by one. But I want you to understand ABAP is a language to implement this one. When you are implementing, we simply follow the instructions. But at the time of building this instruction, at the time of planning this, we need object-oriented skills. At the time of implementing, we just need to know the syntaxes for object-oriented. That's what I'm saying. As long as you know how to call the method and how to define the method, how to write the code inside the method, that is your ABAP, that is enough at the program level. But before you get into the program, only your object-oriented role is over, guys. The role of object-oriented is over before you get into the program. The moment you get in the program, your job is simply and follow that syntaxes instead of performs a form and form, instead of perform a method call, instead of form and form, and a method and method, instead of a function group, maybe a class. So now I want everyone to understand that there are two activities, a design activity and implementation activity. At the time of designing, when there is a scope for designing, then only we can enjoy, we can apply those concepts effectively. If not, we simply and follow the syntaxes only. So that's what when you are writing a program which has no relations with other programs, it will be like this only. It will be like this only. When you ask me how this call method program is better than my perform, to be honest, no. Your call method program is definitely not so better than a non-object oriented where we have performs. But why to go for this? Before, the solution is designed using object oriented. When the solution is designed using object oriented, we need to implement using. Then while implementing, to be honest, we cannot really see the benefit of object oriented at the time of designing. Maybe you can ask, what is the use of then when I cannot see the benefit of it? In one program we cannot see the benefit. When you are writing many programs, many applications, then only we can use the reusability. Reusability comes into picture when something is repeated. Security comes into picture in your program. If there is a customer object, a vendor object, a material object, an employee object, then we can think of security. Yes, I don't want the employee data to be accessed by my customer data. I don't want my customer data to be accessed by employee data. So when the question of security comes into picture, when there are many objects in your program, in this program you are dealing with only one object called customer. When you are the only one, then and you tell me you need the security from whom? So why you need to be secured when there is no one else to damage it? So as long as you are writing programs like these guys, a program for a particular purpose in which we are dealing with only customers or vendors, etc., no security comes into picture. And here when there is no reusability comes into picture, when you ask me what is the advantage of this object-oriented program, definitely no. Now we'll see one scenario where the security comes into picture, reusability comes into picture. That and all will be identified at the time of designing the object. Designing the objects, when there are many objects, then only there is a scope of scope of thinking, scope of applying. Otherwise, what happens? You just want to construct only one single room. You just want to construct only one single room. Do you call the best engineer in the world? Do you need a best engineer in the world to design this room? Ideally, do you need a best engineer to design one single room? Ideally, no, right?
No, no.
But when you, when you really want to construct a building, 10 floors, 20 floors, etc., that time you can really see the strength of engineer. That engineer is object oriented. If you observe it in the villages mainly, the houses will be like this only. The house will be like this: first room, second room, third room, fourth room, like that. Room after room, room after room, room after room. And then no planning required. Usually the maestris in the village only will do the planning and start constructing. Sometimes you might see half of the space, and with a beautiful construction, half of the space, question mark. You will surprise, how is it possible? And within this much space, how is it possible to get such a wonderful and house? Yes, that is not the skill of the people who construct the building. That is skill of the person who designed that building, who give the plan for that house. I think sometimes you might experience this one. Definitely you might see this kind of houses in the villages, but in the half of the space you may see a beautiful construction. And here we surprise, not for the construction. Ideally you should surprise and for the designing of the building, not for the construction. It's simply that is reason. Observe, guys, when you are just observing some buildings which are not yet constructed, not yet started, but I can see the final image of the building. Final image of the building on hoarding. On hoarding may hang to that site with the final shape of the building, because that is already designed. At the time of designing level only, they know the final shape of the product. They just need to implement the instructions. So writing a program is following the instructions that are already committed, already identified at the time of designing. And one more simple example, because I want everyone to understand the difference, because at program level most of the people try to see the benefit of an object oriented, especially in a single program you cannot see the real benefit of object oriented. So one more, let us say, and cutting your cloth, cutting your dress or your suit and stitching the suit, cutting the suit and stitching the suit, stitching the suit. Now tell me, which activity is a skillful activity, which must be done carefully, which must need more expertise?
Obviously, cutting is important.
Yes. So yes, guys, yes, cutting, this cutting only, cutting and cutting the suit and then taking the measurements, that is the more important activity. This is what I am calling as object oriented. That means that means so whenever I go to any tailor, whenever I go to any tailor store, usually what I do, I'll always ask the master to take my measurements. Master says, sorry sir, I'm busy, my assistant will take the measurement, otherwise you need to wait for 30 minutes. Then I simply say, no worries, I'll be back after 30 minutes. Because that the time you spend here for taking the measurements, if the measurements are not taken properly, yes, so now what happens? The end product is decided and by the measurements only. The first activity is the measurements. The measurements must be taken as effectively as possible. Then I also request the master, you only please cut my suit, you only please cut my cloth. You might have assistants, we can do it better, but I'll be happy if you can do it. Please do it. Then if you want me to come after 1 month, I'm okay to come after 1 month. If you give it to any of your assistant for stitching, I'm okay with that. because if the stitching is not done properly, it can be what, rectified. Maybe it can be unjoined and rejoined. But if the cutting and the measurements are not taken properly, that's all. You cannot reverse it. Once the cutting is done, you cannot reverse it. But this can be reversed if required. This is what object-oriented. This is what ABAP. ABAP is a programming language to implement the solution. And object-oriented is an approach to design your applications. Approach to design. It's a designing pattern. It's a designing paradigm with some collection of principles, collection of guidelines. Apply that guidelines and design your solution. Then surprisingly, you can give it to any developer who has just the knowledge about syntax about the object oriented. So for an ABAPer, for a programmer, he need not be an expert in the object oriented. He just need to know the syntaxes for calling methods, creating classes, methods, etc., etc. But who needs more about object oriented? And the people who are involved in designing the solution. When you are in a place where you are designing a complete module from scratch, there you can see the real and opportunity to implement the object oriented concept. When you are here as an ABAPer, yes, at least you should know the syntaxes to implement the code. When you are here like a module lead or a team lead and a project lead, where you get a scope to design the module or project, then only we can apply this concept, guys. Now I want everyone to understand these two things. Object oriented is different and a language is different. Technically speaking, it is some collection of good principles to design your solution effectively. Yeah, Nelson, anything you want to convey? Yeah.
No. Sorry. Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
No problem. Yeah. So is that point clear for everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, fine. Now let us so, and one more thing, while you involved in the designing, we don't keep the programmer in mind. Whether the programming is ABAP, we don't mind. ABAPer. Programming your Java developer, we don't mind. C++ developer, we don't mind. So irrespective of the language, the design must be done. That's what object oriented. Don't bother, we are going to use object oriented ABAP, C++, or Java. When you are at this level, we don't bother about the language. Once someone has designed, you are implementing. Yes, if you want to implement in ABAP, you should be an ABAPer. So to make it simple, what I'll do, so the designing, let's say, and one more thing, let us say you are designing a project like SAP MM. You are designing a module like SAP MM. Definitely, we cannot start writing your programs directly. No, SAP MM is collection of many programs. There is a scope for reusability. There is a scope for security. It's not one program, guys. It's not one program. So in this, when you are involved in designing a solution like MM from the scratch, definitely we have to take the help of object oriented. That's what SAP did. SAP took the help of object oriented. For them, it's mandatory as they design a solution like MM. When you design a solution like MM, yes, this is my first object, customer. Sorry, MM no, vendor. This is my first object or class. Yes, in which some attributes. It is vendor number, name, city, country, whether it is public, protected, private, and methods, functionalities. How many methods? Which method is public? Plus symbol. Which method is private? Minus symbol. Plus means they can access outside. Minus means they cannot. Like this is one object, vendor object. Again a purchasing object, PO, purchase order object. Yes, its properties. Again properties like PO number, plus public, let's say, and minus cannot be accessed, purchasing organization, and a method create PO, and a method change PO, a method so and so. Then vendor invoice, one more object, vendor invoice. The vendor invoice should have the vendor information. So inheritance from this, reusability from this, inheritance. So again here, So all the vendor characteristics plus invoice characteristics and methods and get invoice, display invoice, etc. And here purchase order and vendor invoice again should be inherited from the purchase order because invoice makes sense from the purchases. One more object, one more object, one more object. This plan must be done first. Once this plan is done, it should be documented in the form of diagrams. That can be done using a language called UML, Unified Modeling Language, Universal Modeling Language. It is just with the collection of some diagrams. There is one symbol for class because this is what symbol for class, one symbol for public, one symbol for private, etc, etc, etc. This is what here I need more object oriented knowledge, concepts knowledge. So when to make it public, when to make it private, and we need to understand the complete module. We need to understand the complete module, then only we can design. So here you are acting like an engineer. Here definitely you have to have more object oriented skills. Now once this is designed, guys, here no language comes into picture, no ABAP comes into picture here, and no C++, no Java. UML is a unified modeling language which is just with a collection of diagrams only. I'll show you even how to do that. Collection of diagrams. Once this is ready, now your client wanted to implement this through Java. Yes, possible, as long as that support the object oriented concepts, because we are here, this is what inheritance concept, the public private is object oriented concept. So now the implementation can be done by using any language which supports object oriented. Then we people come into picture, we developers come into picture. Before we start your development itself, the magic of object oriented is already over here, guys. The magic of object oriented is already over here. You are just simply and enjoying that magic here. Here you just need to write the code as per the syntaxes. Syntax for defining the class, syntax for defining the method, etc. But why this is public, why this is private, and all that will be identified at the time of this only. Now we are not here. We ABAPers are not at this stage. We ABAPers are at this stage. If you get an option, an opportunity to involve in designing such a module from scratch, definitely you will enjoy the importance of the object oriented concept like encapsulation, reusability, inheritance, polymorphism, etc, etc, etc. But we ABAPers or we developers, we simply and user concepts without much excitement at the program level. At the program level, this is what. So this is what you don't get it in any ABAP books and any ABAP materials, etc. Usually, because we directly start with my first program with a class method. This is what encapsulation, keeping your code in class, and syntax for local classes, start writing it. I want you guys to understand there are two components, object oriented and ABAP. Yes, this is what object oriented, which is not language specific. Now this, once this is ready, now the solution can be implemented by any programming language who supports object oriented concepts. Yes, is this clear? Very interesting. If really understood, you may not imagine like this. We people, you might expect one program starting with classes and methods. Yes, please, am I clear?
Yeah, it is very clear.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Now, so what else here? Now this is my course content. It's not our course content. SAP. The SAP is as per SAP, because we always refer the SAP course content. This is SAP course code, because this is universal. When you say object oriented above, this must be discussed. So this is universal. At least this much. BC 401 is a course content which is for ABAP objects, in which, and here as per this diagram, I think I removed it. So now again the same, just let me add one more point. I'll just come out here. Let's say this is a building or your module and your class diagram. Yes, attributes and methods, plus minus, etc. Again one more object, one more class, and here at private attributes and methods public usually, and one more class, yes, plus and inheritance from this. Now to be honest, for an SAP developer or any consultant in SAP may not get an opportunity to do this because we SAP consultants are working on already constructed building. We are going to work on already constructed building. This is done by SAP, guys. This kind of work is already done by SAP so that they come up with such a great modules. But being an SAP consultant, you may not get an opportunity to do this kind of thing because we are working on already constructed building. For the already constructed building, I need some other thing. When you need something else, it is enough to focus only this area. Something else, one report program, one BDC program, one smart form, one script, one module program, one table creation, and one ALV. Now tell me, where is the link across all these things? Why you need to think more about designing? You start writing your programs directly. So as long as your role is like this, you don't get an opportunity to apply the concept really. But I'll try to create one scenario where at least we get a chance to apply this one, and finally you come to the program and start writing the code like this. So being a developer and a knowledge about class syntaxes, that is enough. And being a designer, we need to understand the real concepts. Here only syntaxes, here concepts. So that's what it is. It clear why I'm saying you may not get an opportunity to get into this area in SAP at least? If it's a Java project, they design everything from scratch. A .NET project, they design everything from scratch. An ABAP project, no, it's already designed. You are working with an already designed object. Then we don't think about designing at all. When you don't think the designing at all, then we cannot praise object oriented. We cannot praise object oriented in ABAP. We just need to simply follow the things. So we are going to learn all these things. But when being a programmer, this is what we do usually, replacing the subroutines with method calls. But anyway, I'll show you an example in the UML also. I'll show you how to make use of UML also, at least one simple example. Yeah, so you need to imagine yourself as a module lead or a project lead when you are learning object oriented. So that, let's say your role is designing something, not implementing just your language. So now, yes, BC ABAP 401 as part of this. The first chapter is more about UML. What we discuss, create UML diagrams, understand the object-oriented programming model. Then your actual ABAP here. Here we discuss designing part. Then we come to the implementation, creating local classes, objects, methods, etc. More about syntaxes and all. Then inheritance, and again interfaces. Interface also for these two concepts are for reusability. Inheritance and interfacing. Mainly for, as we said, object oriented deals with only 2 points, guys. One is reusability, next one is security. Reusability and security. Then events, object oriented, we can define our own events. Then repository object means global classes, local or program specific. Repository means permanent object like global classes. We discussed the same thing via global classes. And an example, object oriented ABAP, ALV, I showed you, I discussed in the beginning. BADI as an example, ALV as an example, etc. Then exceptions, some unit tests. This is general applications. This is also generic like objects. So there are two things here. We are learning two things. So one is the things which are required for the designer, I mean a module lead, team lead, etc. an experienced one. Other one is ABAPer. So I think you are all expecting ABAPer level, but still I'll try to give as much information as possible. If required, you should be able to and design the solution by applying this object oriented. So once the design is completed, then you can search for the language. Yes, I can use ABAP, I can use C++, I can use Java. For these developers, the diagrams are informative. So that is reason they are not designing the diagrams in their own way. There is something called UML, Unified Modeling Language, Universal Modeling Language, so that universally everyone can understand the diagrams. Just for example, I'll show you. This is quite surprising. I wanted to end this taskbar. Let me try. Oh, we'll try that. I think this is. Yeah. So now this is what I'll give more information, timing for you to see how the UML looks here. There is a software called Star UML. There are many softwares available in the market. It's a very simple file. We can download it. Star UML is one software. In fact, I just downloaded it before your session, because definitely, even though I have 15 years of experience, I too never work with the UMLs. Just don't go with the default approach. Why I too never work with the UMLs? Because being a developer, being an SAP consultant, we never get an opportunity to design such a complex solution. Yes, a class, an interface. These are all some of the things which are supported. A class. Select the class, place it here, and type the description of the class. So vendor, over. Then these things. Right click on this. Add what you want to add. Attribute. What kind of attribute? Plus means public. Minus means private attribute. Okay, here this one here. Visibility. We can say visibility plus, see this, protected, private, like this. You add the property, it's a two-step here. Property here, first property name, and vendor number. Vendor. This is definitely not above, guys. Don't disappoint. Okay, we expect something. He is not discussing above, because some people disappoint. We expect above programming class method, this one, that one. He is designing something. You don't know anything about above. Yeah, please don't go with that. So vendor name. Yes, next, like that. You can say right click, activate, attribute, and city, country, etc. Then in here, by default, they took as a plus symbol here. Next, methods. Right click, add. Operation is a method. Yes, operation. Create vendor. In the left hand side, you can choose the visibility. Public method. By default, it's anyway public. Next one more method here. You can say this plus. Change. One more method. Method indicate that this parenthesis. Display. Yes. That's all. This is one object, a class, and one more class. Select it. Yes, same story. And relation. Somewhere we can see this here. Association, relationship, etc. Relationship. Somewhere we can see one arrow. We can link this and this. This kind of things we should be done first. So now tell me, did I talk anything about ABAP here? Any language here? Did I use any programming language here like ABAP, C++, Java? No. So this is what.
No.
Yeah, good. This is what I call it as object oriented. Once this is done, the relationship between the object, the references, and which is public, which is private, now a language can be decided. It is ABAP. If it is ABAP, in ABAP, you should know how to define a class, how to define the methods. Why this is a proper class, this is a subclass? Because the people who understand the module, who analyze the module, they can only give the answer why this is public, why this is private. When you are simply designing only this class, we just need to follow this instruction. You keep this diagram in mind. Yes, now give to a Java developer, give this one to a Java developer, then he can understand that it is a class. These are all the attributes, these are all the methods, these are all the public methods, public attributes, etc., etc. And this is a class, they have to inherit from this one. This is a method, it should be private, it should be public, etc. Now this will be called UML, Unified Modeling Language. Now this can be saved, of course. This diagram can be saved and given. This is what we can say a blueprint. This is what I can say, a blueprint of this particular thing. So am I clear?
Yes.
Yeah. So definitely, and conclusion is, being an ABAPer, you may not get an opportunity to work with this kind of blueprints. Commonly, we don't get. Regularly, usually, we don't get an opportunity. What kind of opportunity we get it? Implementing this object. Implementing this object. Design and implement. Design and implement. Design and implement. When you are writing a program, so when you are writing a program only for this object, we don't bother about this one. Your job is just to know how to define a class, implement the class, creating objects, calling the methods, etc., etc. Yeah. So, but anyway, there are a lot of things to understand here at the programming level. So yeah, I just wanted to show you that if I can get that server. It is still the same. I think I need to know how to close it. Here itself we have a taskbar. So you understood the course content also know what we are going to discuss. Mainly the ABAP implementation only. There are classes, local classes, global classes, inheritance, interfaces, and the typecasting and all. And along with that, this kind of concept like how to design the objects. Of course, most of the design things we already discussed. So maybe in our next session tomorrow and same time 10 to 12, and we'll get into more technical. I'll start discussing the concepts, object-oriented concepts directly.
So Ganpati, hello.
Yeah. Yes. Tell me.
Yeah. While implementing body means it is a completely object oriented, right?
Yes. Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, body is completely. So this SAP design that all the classes,
Correct. Yes.
global classes, and we are just
Correct.
uh, we are implementing it in the while implementing Z body over, right?
Correct. Yes. More or less same. Yes. We are implementing that empty methods. They'll offer the empty methods, and we are going to write the code inside the empty methods.
So it's
Yes, Kishore, your voice is
implementing the
breaking.
methods provided by them.
Yes. More or less, yes.
Yes, sorry, correct. Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah,
yes,
that's
yes.
so. Yes, guys. Anything else? Just please, any questions? And coming to myself, I think I have not introduced. I'm not sure how many people are already aware of me. So coming to myself, and I'm Ganapati ADIMULAM. I have 15 years of experience in SAP. I started my career in 2003 as an ABAPer. Then I worked for 4 to 5 years as a developer. As a developer in Satyam Computers, Infosys, and Capgemini. Later, due to some interest, I'm into trainings. For the last 10 years, I'm into trainings. Most of my trainings are corporate trainings nowadays and classroom training. No, only online and corporate trainings, and I also do some freelancing work. As and when I get any development work, I accept it just to get familiar with the real-time concepts. So, and I'm certified in ABAP. I'm certified in HANA ABAP also. So I do offer the trainings for HANA ABAP and as well as UEFI FIORI. So this OO-ABAP, I noticed that many people coming from a HANA ABAP and UI5, they are asking for object-oriented ABAP training. So I thought, okay, let's spend some 2 to 3 weekends because I can get a weekend. I mean, people available in the weekends. So I just planned it. This is my attempt to just have OO-ABAP as a special thing. Usually it is part of my regular ABAP classes if it is, and this is a designed a special thing and for a limited period, whatever that is really enough. So this is about me, and those who are really interested, so please continue from tomorrow and 10 to 12. And to be honest, since it's a weekend session and it's a long